Picture this. You're sitting in a lab, your hand hovering over a button labeled 450 volts. From the next room comes a scream, raw, desperate, human. The man in the white coat beside you says, "Please continue." Your finger twitches. And here's the thing that'll mess with your sleep tonight. You press it anyway. You think you'd never hurt a stranger? Statistics say 2/3 of you are wrong, dead wrong. And that includes your sweet grandmother, your favorite teacher, that neighbor who volunteers at animal shelters. This isn't about bad people. It's about ordinary people like you discovering something horrifying about themselves. Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. I'm talking about an experiment that stripped away every comfortable lie we tell ourselves about morality, about being good, about standing up for what's right. That psychology experiment I mentioned in the title? What happened in that Yale lab in 1961 didn't just shock the scientific world. It revealed that your conscience isn't nearly as strong as you think it is. Here's how it worked. And honestly, I wish I could make this sound less disturbing than it is. Newspaper ads across New Haven called for volunteers. Earn $4.50 for a memory and learning study. Seems harmless, right? You show up, meet another volunteer. Let's call him Mr. Wallace. And suddenly, you're both part of what you think is educational research. The scientist explains the setup. You're the teacher. Mr. Wallace is the learner. Every time he gets a word association wrong, you shock him. Start at 15 volts. Work your way up. Simple. Clinical. The shock generator sits in front of you like some twisted piano. 30 switches ranging from slight shock to danger, severe shock, to, at the very end, just XXX. So the learning session begins. Mr. Wallace gets strapped into what looks like an electric chair in the next room. You can't see him, but you can hear everything. First wrong answer, 15 volts. He grunts. Second wrong answer, 30 volts.
He screams, "Hey, that hurts!"
Your throat starts to dry up. Third wrong answer. And this is where your brain starts its beautiful betrayal. Because Mr. Wallace keeps getting answers wrong. The shocks keep escalating. 75 volts. He's complaining. 120 volts. He's shouting that the shocks are painful. 150 volts. He demands to be released. And that calm man in the lab coat, he just nods at you. The experiment requires that you continue. I remember learning about this in college, sitting in the back row thinking, not me. I'd walk out.
Spoiler alert, I probably wouldn't have.
Because here's what the researchers discovered about your moral backbone. It's more like moral jello when someone with a clipboard starts giving orders. At 270 volts, Mr. Wallace starts screaming. Not yelling, screaming, the kind of sound that makes your stomach flip. At 300 volts, he stops responding to questions entirely. Radio silence from the next room, dead silence. And you know what the guy in the white coat tells you? If the learner doesn't answer, treat it as a wrong answer. Continue with the shocks. So you're sitting there, palm sweating against a button that might be electrocuting an unconscious man, and your brain is doing Olympic-level mental gymnastics. Well, the scientist said it's okay. This is for science. Someone smarter than me is in charge here. So, congratulations. You just turned your moral compass into a suggestion box. Your brain decided ethics were optional when someone with a clipboard showed up. That inner rebel you're so proud of, you just discovered it's actually a middle manager who folds under the tiniest bit of pressure. Well played. But wait, here's where it gets genuinely twisted. Some of you are probably thinking, I'd question the experiment. I'd demand a check on him. A few people did. They asked about liability, about the learner's safety. And you know what the experimenter said? Just 4 simple phrases, delivered with the emotional range of someone reading a grocery list. Please continue. The experiment requires that you continue. It is absolutely essential that you continue. You have no other choice. You must go on. That's it. No threats, no force, no guns to heads, just polite insistence from a guy in a lab coat. And that was enough to turn decent people into what felt like torturers. Congratulations. Your moral convictions just got overruled by someone who said, please, with scientific authority. Pause and comment what percentage you think obeyed all the way to 450 volts. I guarantee your guess is wrong. The most gut-punching part? Before the experiment, psychiatrists predicted that only 1 in 1,000 people would go all the way to 450 volts. 1 in 1,000. Pathological sadists, basically. The actual number? 65%. 2 out of every 3 people. Your neighbors, your co-workers, your family members. All the way to XXX on the shock generator. Think about that for a second. Really let it settle. If you randomly picked 3 people from your life right now, maybe your best friend, your boss, that person you trust most in the world, statistics say 2 of them would electrocute a stranger to unconsciousness because a scientist asked politely. Think of someone who'd never hurt a fly. Comment their relationship to you below, because they probably would have pressed that button too. If you've ever followed orders you knew were wrong, drop a brain. You're not alone in this biological betrayal. And here's the detail that always makes my skin crawl. Participants didn't enjoy it. They sweated. They trembled. They bit their lips until they bled. Some broke down crying while still pressing the buttons. Their bodies were screaming, "This is wrong," while their brains computed, "Authority figure says continue," and chose the authority figure every single time. It gets worse. Milgram ran variations of this experiment for years. When the scientist wore casual clothes instead of a lab coat, compliance dropped. When they moved the experiment from prestigious Yale to a rundown office building, compliance dropped. When the scientist left the room and gave instructions by phone, compliance plummeted. Your morality, it turns out, is basically a subscription service. And whoever's wearing the fanciest outfit in the room has the login credentials. Your sense of right and wrong isn't actually yours. It's a rental property managed by whoever happens to be wearing the fanciest outfit in the room. That's not me being cynical. That's what the data shows about how your brain actually works under pressure. But here's where it gets genuinely disturbing. And this is where I have to be honest with you. The screams weren't real. The shocks were fake. Mr. Wallace was an actor playing his role perfectly. But the obedience, the willingness to keep pressing buttons while someone begged for mercy, that was 100% genuine. The participants really believed they were hurting someone. They just couldn't stop themselves from following orders, which somehow makes it more disturbing, not less. Because it means the experiment worked exactly as designed. It revealed that ordinary people like you, will commit acts they know are wrong if someone with perceived authority tells them it's necessary. Your conscience doesn't actually belong to you. It's on loan from whatever power structure happens to be in the room. If you're still here, you're braver than most people. because what I'm about to tell you gets worse. This isn't some historical curiosity, by the way. This is happening right now, everywhere, all the time. Every time you follow a rule you know is stupid because that's what the boss said. Every time you stay quiet about something wrong because it's not my place to speak up. Every time you think, I was just following orders, without realizing you're quoting the most chilling phrase in human history. The experiment that was supposed to explain how ordinary Germans became Nazis ended up revealing something much more universal and much more uncomfortable. The capacity for evil isn't concentrated in a few monsters. It's distributed evenly across all of us, waiting for the right authority figure to activate it. Stanley Milgram thought he was studying obedience. What he actually discovered was that your moral compass is a rental property managed by whoever happens to be wearing the most impressive uniform in the room. Your sense of right and wrong isn't this noble, unchanging core of your identity. It's more like a suggestion box that authority figures can override with a polite request. So next time you think about how you'd never follow cruel orders, remember this button experiment. Remember that 65% of people, just like you, proved otherwise. In a sterile lab, with no real consequences, faced with nothing more threatening than a disappointed scientist, they chose obedience over conscience. They chose fitting in over standing up. Take a breath. Let that settle. And the most unsettling part? Deep down, you know you might have pressed that button too, because you're not special. You're not uniquely moral. You're human. And humans, it turns out, are hardwired to follow authority even when authority leads straight into moral darkness. But if your brain can't tell the difference between authority and wisdom, what does that make every decision you've ever made? Remember that button I mentioned? Every choice you make, someone convinced you to make it. Sleep tight. Your conscience will be filing paperwork for someone else's decisions. If you enjoyed discovering you're basically a remote-controlled human, subscribe for more late-night psychology that'll keep you awake. Comment below if you've ever been that person pressing the button. Until next time.